Go.
Hey yo, it's Deep Convos with your hosts Meg and Fran, and we have a special guest today. Get excited, y'all.
Woo. It's okay.
Yeah. Yes, I was clapping. And
Oh.
now we can transition to
Me?
Keith.
That was
Yes.
so fast.
I
thought you guys were going to do like a whole intro and everything.
I wanted to do a whole intro, but Meg just like
let's just get down and
did
dirty.
her thing.
Well, that's fine. I mean, I can quickly do it. So I'm Keith.
Yeah, let's
I
quickly
am
pivot.
your guys' cousin, I think.
Why is
That's
that
accurate.
funny?
Accurate.
Although in somewhat a very different situation. You guys are in the States currently. I am in Vancouver, British Columbia in Canada. So not too far away, but probably very different in weird ways.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, how old am I? 28?
We just talked about this, Keith.
I don't know how old I am. 28-ish, I think.
Dear.
Yeah.
You say 28?
I think so, aren't I?
Oh wow.
Yes, you are, because
Oh my
I'm
God.
turning 28.
It's only yesterday that I was 28. By yesterday, I mean like 3 years ago.
What else? What else about me?
And just like a quick little, what do you do?
Like, what is your elevator pitch? Like, if the two of us were in an elevator.
You have a minute to do an elevator pitch.
Yeah, go ahead. Who
Pressure.
are
I feel
you?
like
What are you all about?
What are you all about?
Oh,
Who are you?
gosh.
I'm counting down. Let me.
Oh no, there's so much pressure. Yeah, so I don't know, what do I talk about? I'm hoping to get married.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good start.
December this year, but obviously with all this pandemic stuff, hoping for the best. Outside of that, I don't like being at home. So this situation has
I hear you.
been kind of sucky, but at the same point in time, I can't complain because, you know, in a weird way, it is kind of a break to look at it on the bright side. It's a chance for, I think, everybody to kind of assess their situation. Hopefully that's what people have been doing, not just freaking out all the time, though obviously it is a very scary time. But yeah, for me, I think, sorry, I don't mean like already jump into the topic of what we were trying to
No, that's a
talk
good
about
like
today.
little setup.
Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, I like to be out. I like hanging out with people. I'm a big part of my church. I love hanging out with all of my friends are basically in that same circle. So right now to not see them face to face, it's not good. It's not fun.
Yeah, I hear you. Oh, we're gonna talk a lot about that today. Great. Before we like really dive into the meat of this podcast, we have a mailbag. By mailbag, it's like 4 comments. But anyway, so
and a lot of spam.
So the last question we pitched on our social media to our followers, which is like 90% our friends, is what their number one thing that they have to have is when they're working from home or when they're trying to stay productive at home, or if they have any tips as well. Here's what I got. 90% was like, "Hi, Fran." That was 90% of it. And then the other ones are, these are all for my friends. So someone was like, working out or staying active, which I agree with. This is from someone else.
Thinking emoji.
Thinking emoji. That's the other one. And then the third one is Spotify. No music / podcast and I will die. That's my coworker. And then the last one, or not the last one, the second to last one is my balance ball chair, which is actually such a great idea because my spine, my back throughout this whole thing has been sitting for so long. And lastly, my other friend said background noise, music, podcast, audiobook, even just a window open. that, which is, I don't know. It depends on what it is. I don't know. Do you guys like background noise? It depends on what it is.
Yeah, it depends. Depends what I'm doing. But because too much silence can be like a little bit suffocating. But yeah. Well,
no, I need noise, but
yeah,
it can't be like a truck honking. I can't.
Yeah.
Or like someone blending for 5 minutes in the kitchen. That's fucking annoying.
Or vacuum.
No one vacuums here. Anywho. What about you, Meg?
Well, I was gonna say you actually got some pretty good ones. Here are the ones I got. And so, what's the question again? What can you not live without at home?
Yeah,
so
when you're working from home.
Yeah. And so here are the responses I got. Hello, I would love to welcome you to my profile for skincare education and self.
That too.
I really hope you'll find it useful. Then I got another one from Stellar Brew, and he or she said, "We love your content," and I'm like, "Great, that doesn't answer my question." Epiphany.audio said, "Such wonderful photos, X." Okay, great, thank you. Doesn't answer my question. And then finally, Yes Please Makeup said, "What would be your superpower?" So they answered my question with an irrelevant question.
Oh my God, I got a similar thing where someone was like, "Do you think flying cars will be in the future?" And I was like, it's a good food for thought. Like it
like are these, I feel like these people are high and they're like, let me just send a bunch of random questions to people I don't know on Instagram, and maybe some of them will respond, because I feel like that's what I would do if I was high.
Okay, you didn't get any like valuable responses.
That is it. That is the most valuable ones that I have.
Okay, well, I want to know what Keith, you work from home. Yeah.
Actually, no. So I think we did this but I don't currently. Just kind of waiting.
Not currently. Okay.
Yeah, just waiting for more instructions in that way.
Oh, right. No, I remember. Yeah, you said.
Yeah. So right now, nothing.
Are you like doing? But you're probably doing other projects. Right? Are you taking this time to do other projects?
Oh, fair enough. So again, I mentioned earlier I am quite involved in my church.
Yeah.
And specifically our young adults group. We are making content. It's such a weird word, but that's what we're doing to try and have something online for people to go to, for people to kind of listen in. And then behind the scenes, Sunday nights is normally when we would meet. But with this COVID stuff, it's been brought down to obviously a Zoom meeting or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
so what would you say you absolutely need? Because I'm assuming you have like a home setup or like a corner or something. Like, what do you like need to be working like the best way you can? It's a tough one.
It really is.
You don't have to answer it now.
I mean, while you're thinking, Keith, I guess I should answer.
Let's see what Megan has to say.
Because I'm currently lacking in those things. So I think what's necessary is it's a proper desk. The one that I have here is like a rickety one that's the nails are falling out, and it's like for a second grader to sit at. So that's why I have this booster.
Oh my gosh.
And then the next one is a proper chair with proper back support. So I think that's also necessary.
Oh yeah, I have
I need that too. Proper equipment so that your back is not hurting.
You can get like those like lumbar spine support you can attach.
This has one. This has one, but I think it's just the chair. It's like not working well with the chair.
Yeah. You can't remedy a shitty chair. You can add all kinds of stuff to it, but So
I think like those are some things that it's worth investing a little bit of money. And that's just like my philosophy in general with purchasing stuff. Like there's some things it's okay. Oh, it's like on sale for $1. Yeah. Like there's some things that's okay. But there's just some things you need to invest in a quality product. So, all right. And then on to.
Wait, Keith. Oh yeah, Keith. Okay.
Yes.
Oh gosh.
I mean, I can answer while you're thinking. No, okay. Keith is going to think more. What I absolutely need to be working properly is podcasts or music. So I agree with those two people who said that. I need to have something, because sometimes what I do is like there are some tasks I do that kind of get repetitive, you still have to but you still have to think. So music is good for that, because like that you can like kind of jam out while you're doing Excel data input. You're like, yeah. So I kind of need that, otherwise I'm gonna like drive myself up the wall. So I think, and also like just constant breaks. It has to be constant breaks, otherwise I'll just get sapped out of energy. So that's me.
Yep.
Okay, now we're really going to Keith. We're really
Oh my. So I can't think of anything else, but like it's such a selfish thing. So I'm not saying that I'm like the best musician ever. I'm actually trying to learn a little bit more. So a part of the thing that I do for church is to record and make music. So I guess on the note of what you guys are talking about, selfishly, I would like better stuff just in general to be able to work. Not that I'm using that as an excuse, but sometimes not having the appropriate equipment for things like that. So I don't know if you guys can see, oh man, this is my work desk currently when I'm trying to record and make music. It's that area over there.
Oh,
that
wow.
countertop
Yeah.
at the wall. Okay, for the just the listeners, it's just literally a white cabinet counter against the wall. That's
Yeah. And it's like, I think a $70 keyboard that has a broken USB cord that I need to fudge with every single
oh
time.
shoot.
So
Yeah, you
it'd be
need to.
nice.
Yeah, I would say you would need you need to replace
A
Yeah.
desk. Let's
or
start with a desk.
let's a desk
Yeah.
and a chair, man.
It's like mine. It's like mine. See?
oh
Like
my gosh.
actual furniture and stuff that works, and equipment that's
Yeah.
quality.
Well, a lot of people are having to make do all of a sudden because they're like, oh, now I don't have a home office. Okay, I guess my kitchen
Right.
table, you know, with my kids running around. So, yeah. Okay, good answer, Keith. And actually a good segue into like the main topic. Not really a segue, it runs counter to it because we just talked about work. But this is like basically our topic today is how to take care of ourselves outside of working, because that can be working on it, it doesn't matter if it's like your full-time job or you're working on certain projects like creative or otherwise, it does get draining, and we need to nourish ourselves in some form or another. So I thought a lot about this and how to organize this convo. I guess we should start with winding down. Like after, like either after a work day or after you do like a Zoom show. Yeah, like a night. Yeah, mainly nighttime routines. I'm gonna out you. Keith said nighttime routines in chat, people. Yeah, nighttime routines, but it could be any time. It could be after like a 3-hour project you were recording. Yeah, what do you guys do to wind down?
Okay, so first I think we should make a little bridge between our last episode and this episode just to kind of, so like last episode we talked a lot about daytime productivity. That was our theme, right? So whether you're working from home or if you have kind of a freelance job or unemployed, just staying productive at home, like continuing to feed your brain, making sure that you're not killing your brain cells by just watching 10 hours of Netflix, right? Like finding different ways to stay productive, but also healthy. So that was what we talked about in the first episode. And now this episode, the difference is we want to focus more on the after hours, right? So the first episode was daytime. Yeah, like clock in, clock out. This time around, we're going to talk about, well, what do you do after you clock out? Do you go and sit down and watch 6 hours of Netflix? But that's why we have this podcast, is we're encouraging all of us, to find other ways to enrich and nourish ourselves in those after hours periods. So whether that be in the morning with your morning routines, which we talked about last time, or our night routines, which is, I guess, what we're going to talk about now, right? Because most of us clock out at night, whether it be 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. So yeah. So do you want to start with night routines?
Yeah, we can start. The only reason I made it nighttime routines or after a project is because not everyone has a 9 to 5. But yeah, we can start with just nighttime. If you want to start there. What do I do? Well, so my job is luckily pretty regular in that I usually am done with work by like 5:36. And then I just like to do right after I log off. I like to do like a short, like a 10-minute sort of some sort of movement or something. So like either if I'm feeling really energetic and like I have a lot of energy to burn because I've been sitting for so long, I do like a 10-minute ab workout. Fuck it. Or like sometimes I do like if I'm really like so drained from such a busy day, I do maybe like a 10 to 15 minute just gentle yoga, or maybe like a 5-minute meditation practice. I just like to do a little something just to, depending on how I sort of like assess how I feel right after I log off and see kind of what I need. So like that's right after work. I don't know, what do you guys do like right after? Like you log off and you're like, what do you guys do?
So for me, I'll start with what I used to do, which is horrible, and what I've been doing lately to try and
Oh, great.
combat.
Oh, I love the comparisons.
I will admit that I have a little bit of a problem in terms of always, not so much Netflix, but always being on YouTube or on Facebook or Instagram, where there's a part where it'll just play videos, right? And then a video will end.
Yeah.
And then you go to the next one, or you just scroll and it's endless videos. And I'm afraid I'm a victim of like just being stuck watching like 5-minute segments of whatever. It's like the randomest things.
Right. And they're short. So you're like, oh, I can watch another one. And then before you know it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I've found myself countless times where it's like, holy smokes, it's 1:30 in the morning.
Oh God.
And I've been watching just stupid stuff.
Yeah.
So to combat that, which is something that I used to do, and thinking about it now, I took for granted. I used to go to the gym a lot, and that was right after work. So it was me and Kuya Mike, my brother, or like my friends. We would go. There was a routine to always meet at the gym at this time, work out for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then go home. And by that time, your body's so tired, you're ready to go to sleep, if that makes sense.
Right.
So now, in the same manner, it's walking. So Jen and I, my fiance, one of the things that we love doing is walking. So the longest walk that we've done, it's I think 2 hours. So 10 kilometers over to some place and then 10 kilometers back. But it's like we make sure that there's time for that, because we know that being stuck at home or not taking the time to for the lack of a better term, exercise can definitely ruin your system.
Oh yeah. And that's like the amount of time you would spend like commuting to and from the gym and at the gym anyway, like around 2 hours. So like, and you're getting outside of the 4 walls. And yeah, it's like when you don't do that, you kind of just get stagnant energy, and you don't realize it. You don't realize you're accumulating stagnant energy until you start crying in the corner like I do. Yeah, that's great. Meg, what's yours?
Yeah, what I love about that is like, so all of us are a victim to that, right? Like not just you, Keith. We all fall in that wormhole of like YouTube or Netflix or video games, whatever it may be. But like what I love about what you just said is you identified your problem, right? And that's the first step to getting over a problem or finding a solution is, okay, is it just acknowledging it in the first place? Because a lot of us are in denial. You know, if you said that to someone like, oh, you spend a lot of your time on your phone, and you're like defensive, like, no, I don't, like, I'm doing productive stuff, then it's like, okay, you're never going to solve that problem. So I think that's good that you took that initiative and you replaced it with a healthier habit. That reminds me of the, you know, like the diet advice, like, oh, if you want to lose weight, like take the junk food out of your house and replace it with something healthier, right? Don't keep ice cream in your fridge, keep, I don't know, frozen berries. So it's like, you are not depriving yourself. You're just replacing it with something that's healthier. And I think that's a really good tactic not just for our topic here, but just for any bad habit in general. So I think that's really good. Yeah, for me, I guess the angle I want to take on it is, I guess, like after work or nighttime habits and routines when you're pressed for time. So in my case, I'm practicing Ramadan right now. I mentioned that last time. And so my hours are very limited in which I can actually do stuff. So for me, like when I clock out of work, I have to immediately make dinner because it's like not a lot of time, you know, like, so if I'm working late, I need to clock off and then make dinner and then eat and then go directly to bed because I wake up at around 4 a.m. every day for the pre-dawn meal. So it's like I have a limited amount of time. And so I have to be like, okay, how can I still integrate that self-care, like night routine? So for me, it's like what you mentioned before. I feel like weird calling you Ate Kukay on the podcast.
Oh no, don't out my nickname.
That's the Filipino
Now
way.
everyone knows. Jeez, fine.
No one's gonna remember. Okay, Fran. So weird.
No, just call me whatever you want. No, it's too late.
My sister, she's mentioned
God.
podcasts, right? Or like maybe audiobooks. So for me, it's like having that playing in the background while I'm chopping vegetables or cooking dinner. So even though like I'm doing something that's like gotta get this done, I have something in the background that's still kind of self-care. Or if I'm taking a shower, like having my Bluetooth and playing some good music that I love. Or I mentioned this in the first episode, like taking it's back in the workday. But I was going to say like taking some of my meetings outside because it's like I'm incorporating that what I would normally do after work and trying to build it or fold it into my workday because my time is so compressed. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. And then like what Keith said, like taking walks or just even getting my ass outside and just like feeling the sun on myself because it's very easy for us to just stay holed up inside. So yeah, so that's, I guess what I'm trying to say is there is no excuse to not take care of yourself, even if it's just finding little itty bitty ways to streamline it or fold it into other things that you're doing. So that's like my current strategy as of late because of my schedule.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's actually a good point because like, I mean, a 2-hour walk is great, but like not everyone might have that like 2 hours to walk or even an hour to, I don't know, I do an hour of yoga sometimes and maybe not everyone, do you have to like maybe they have a longer work day or something. But what you said about like you try to take your meetings outside. Yeah, even like we talked about micro learning in the last podcast. You can do micro anything. Like you can I did like a 5-minute dance break today between 2 calls. Like I did a 5-minute, I put on a couple of songs on Spotify and just danced because I was like, just so much pent up energy from sitting and not being outside. And that helped. Like just little things like that, even when you don't have time. They really, really help.
Or like assessing your schedule, right? I know everybody, it's tough to schedule everything in one day, but if you look at and you ask yourself, hey, what do I have planned for today from this time to this time, this time to this time, and you find out either where you're free or where you can sacrifice a little bit of your TV time to try and go and walk outside or something like that.
Yes. Oh, here's something I've been trying to work on is, as you can tell, saying no is okay sometimes. I've always had this problem. Pre-COVID, I was just out all the time doing so many things and I loved all of them, but I just never had time to rejuvenate. I don't know if that's the word, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And now, like Keith, what you were saying, it is a forced pause. Like now is a forced pause to kind of take that time for yourself. And initially it was, but then of course, like Zoom took over the world and everyone is now doing everything over Zoom. And I'm like, yeah. I'll do that and that and that and that. And it's all fun. But then it turns into like today where I have 4 Zoom calls in a row. I really wanted to do this today. I'm not dragging this podcast. But yeah, it's like, assess, like you were saying, assess your calendar and be like, what can I maybe ask someone to push to tomorrow? What can I say no to? And then instead of doing that other thing that would drain you, then put, walking for an hour in that spot instead. It's just like, it's so important to just take time for yourself. And I think another aspect that's stopping people is like, they're going to be maybe shamed for it. I hear this a lot. People are like, oh, what am I going to do? Like, it's quarantine. I'm whenever I plan something, I'm just like, hey, do you guys want to do this? Only if you're free. Like, you don't have to say yes if you're not free. And then they're like, what am I going to do? It's quarantine. Like, they're like, not doing anything. But I'm like, dude, blocking off an hour or two so you can read a book that you really wanted to read, that's a valid meeting with yourself. Like, you don't have to knock that. Like, that's not nothing. And I think that's what I'm trying to also claim for myself.
Yeah. Along with that is like, I don't know how to phrase this, but like being honest with yourself about what really makes you happy and what enriches you, because now it's like we have a lot of time, right? Maybe you're like, oh, I can do X, Y, and Z. I can learn this. I can learn that. So kind of that productivity we talked about in the first episode, or in your case, like all the social events happening on Zoom. Like, yeah, I can say yes to all of these now because I don't have an excuse. I have all this time. But if it's not making you happy, right? Or if it comes to the point where you're like, it's bringing you more stress, like, oh shit, I got 10 Zoom meetings to go to, like, like
preaching to the choir right here.
You know what I mean? So just being honest with yourself, like, okay, this activity that I'm about to partake in, am I doing it to make someone else happy? Am I doing it because I feel like it's an obligation? Like, I have to read War and Peace because I wanted to read that when I was younger. And now it's quarantine, so there's no excuse. Like, is reading War and Peace really going to make you? I know I'm like that. I'm like, oh, this is the perfect time to take on. But it's like, not in the mood. So be honest with yourself.
Here's an example. Here's an example of that. Well, this is also sort of also like a thing you can do now. Because like, I know we're like ideas of how to spend this time instead of just YouTube, which you can do book club like me. I'm in 2 book clubs, but that's a good thing in and of itself. It's like, I'm enjoying reading all these books. But now it's starting to get to a point where I'm like, one of the book clubs is like stressing me out because I'm like, it's just too much. Like, I'm already doing 5 other activities. Like, do I need to be in 2 book clubs? That's a good way to like, enrich yourself. But then when it gets to the point where it's not enriching you any longer, then you gotta, there's like 2 sides of the spectrum. You don't want to go too far in either side of it. So that's what I'm currently navigating. It's a fun exploration, that's for sure. But anyway, that's my number 1 favorite thing right now is reading books. I don't know if you guys have rediscovered reading. I haven't before quar, I'm calling it quar because that's what people are calling it. Before quar, I hadn't read a full fiction book in like years, maybe like 3 years. And then this time came along and I was like, oh my God, this is why I loved reading. So I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm just trying not to let it get into like 2 book club school mode. But yeah, I don't know if you guys have rediscovered anything that you were like, wow, this is why I really like this in the first place.
I was the opposite. I never read a book. Sorry. I'm trying to admit something here.
No, it's cool. Respect.
And then, so it wasn't just COVID. I think I started with like the Narnia books. So I haven't worked my way through all of them, but I definitely started the first one, finished that, loved it. And I hate to sound like everybody else in terms of like, it really is a different experience. Like, you watch a movie, everything is there. It's aesthetically pleasing, but there's something different about you reading a book and you creating that image in your brain
with your own imagination. Yeah, for sure.
So right now, what I'm trying to work through, I'm trying because I'm not doing a good job, is the Harry Potter series.
You know what? I don't want to say my opinions about it.
Hey, reading is reading, okay, right?
Fine.
That's true.
Reading is reading, even though it's Harry Potter. But anywho.
Yeah, for me, I really love reading, but I've just the nature of the work I do, I'm reading like so much technical text.
Oh yeah, you cannot.
I would love to read a book, but I have to absorb it another way. So that's why like audiobooks or podcasts are great for me, because then I'm still absorbing that knowledge, but I don't have to actually use my eyeballs to read it. Yeah. So yeah, that's like what I encourage our listeners, like there's always another alternate way to do something.
Oh, for
You
sure.
know, you have to just like flex your creativity muscles.
Yeah.
Like I was thinking about what Keith said about like, oh, I have a problem with YouTube and I've replaced it by going to the gym, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, like everyone knows this, but you can do the two together, right? You can be in the treadmill and watch YouTube at the same time. So it's like, if it's hard for you to make that leap from a bad habit to a completely good one, find a bridge in between. And that maybe that's a
Oh my
bridge in
God.
between. Watch YouTube while you're on the treadmill. That way it's like, or I think I mentioned this, I think in our last episode, or maybe not, but doing like push-ups or crunches during commercials when you're watching TV. So
I was about to suggest that when you said that. Yeah. Like, or like even walking in place while you're watching a show, or like make it a game. I think you did talk about this.
Yeah, replace drinking games. So you're like, oh, take a shot.
Don't make it a drinking game.
Like for example, take a shot every time someone take a shot every time someone dies in Game of Thrones. Replace that with do 10 crunches every time someone dies in Game of Thrones.
Eat a carrot. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
No, that's a great idea. Oh my, yeah, I love that bridge idea because sometimes people are intimidated by jumping into one of these things. I'm about to talk about meditation, but I won't.
Why not?
Okay, so the other thing I love doing is because we just talked about like it's hard for people to jump into something new without bridging it, but maybe we can talk. So one of my favorite things to do. Favorite is a relative term, but one of my favorite things to do is meditate. I guess it's not really just meditating. It's also mindfulness. Like they kind of, there's some times that they overlap because like I do have a meditation practice where I sit down and do it. But then there's like, I do have a meditation / mindfulness practice where like, if I'm walking outside or like, if I'm feeling some sort of emotion as a result of something happening at work or with my roommates or something, I try to like be present with it and observe and note, like a noting practice, which is like kind of meditative. But yeah, I just try to be, practicing presentness, like awareness. Awareness is the word. I think that just helps so much with, because it's easy to like be like, oh, there's nothing to do, I'm bored. But then you don't kind of investigate that further. It's like, why are you bored? Like, what's going on? What do you think will nourish you? Or like if you're like, oh my God, all I do is like, let's go back to that YouTube example. Like all I'm doing to fill my time is watch YouTube. Like I don't have any energy for anything else, or like I don't have any motivation for anything else. So I'm just going to keep watching YouTube. But there's like sort of no exploration into what's underneath that. And I'm not perfect at it, but I try to be present, like aware of what's happening underneath. And then again, not just sitting down. If I'm walking outside, if I'm cooking, washing the dishes, and I have a chance to check in, I'm like, what's going on in there? Basically like you're friends with yourself and you're like, yo, what's up? Like we haven't talked in a bit today. What's going on? So I try to do that. And that really helps me to wind. I don't know what term we're using, but wind down, because it's like, there's a lot of stuff that you clamp down on when you're working because you put on an intellect hat and you kind of turn off everything else down here. So it's good to check back in at the end of the day and be like, so what's going on? Like, are you feeling okay? Are you sad? What's going on?
Or we live in, especially now, like we live in an age where you can get everything onto your phone, which we have on us all of the time. So not just like winding down, but like, when was the last time that you just stopped thinking about 18 different things, right? Focusing on one thing, or never mind that, focusing on nothing. Like when I say walk, there are cases in those walks where I'm not thinking of anything.
Yeah.
I'm looking at cars passing by, I'm looking at the trees, I'm looking at the flower. I'm not thinking about work, I'm not thinking about the wedding. Yeah. I'm not, it really is a way to, like, meditation comes in different shapes and sizes.
Exactly.
You mentioned asking yourself why you're doing that. Yeah, like I've thought of what can and can't happen with my wedding, but I have a clear idea of what that would look like versus, from the time that I just proposed to Jen, right? That's because I'm taking the time to actually think about this stuff.
Right.
Or why are we so quick to schedule work and not schedule anything else?
Yes. Quick. Yeah, we're always quick. Jump on to the next thing. Meg, I know you're about to say something.
Why?
Okay, how
I
quick
took
is it? How quick is it? Because we're gonna have to break. Okay, do it. Just
super
do it.
quick. Super quick.
I love you. Do it.
I don't know if it's about this meditation mindfulness topic, but I don't know. It just popped into my mind. I love the quote, "This too shall pass." And that really helps ground me in the present moment. Why? Because it's like, this is like a Buddhist philosophy, right? Attachment to things. Like why, like Keith's question, why are we so quick to prioritize and schedule work? Because we're attached to it, right? We're attached to the salary, to the money, to the status. Why are we, I don't know. Everything is about attachments. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And this too shall pass reminds you like, dude, whatever this situation is temporary. You know? So for example, like Keith's situation with the wedding, it's like super uncomfortable to be in the unknown, right? Like when is this actually going to happen? Because I also have a couple of friends that are going through that, and it's like, like you're like looking forward to something and then it's like postponed. But this too shall pass. You can say that with everything. Okay. Like this COVID thing, it's going to pass. Like, yeah, it's going to delay some things in my timeline, but at the end of the day, it is going to pass. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's temporary and it will be worked out. You know, the stress that we experience is because we are attached to things and we think it's permanent, especially when you're emotionally invested in it. You know, you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to last forever. It's not, dude. Like previous, what do you call them? Pandemics, right? Those passed.
Yeah.
You know, the worst events in history have passed and everything will always pass. So that was the one thing I wanted to say.
Yeah. It's like everything is temporary. And also like, it's always worth it to just, if you think a thought, do an opposite thought and see if that's also true. Like what you said. I'm not going to dive into it because that's a whole thing. And we need to like segue. Our segues are always so smooth. Like I'm loving it. So we're going to take a break.
Was that sarcastic?
Yes. I hope people got that. we're going to take a break and segue into the segment called What We're Loving This Week.
Yay. You should explain to Keith what that.
Keith, I told you ahead of time that you don't have to participate if you want to take a break. But if you do have something, you can chime in at the end once you think of a couple of things you're like really into this week. But I'm gonna go first this time, okay? Because you went first last time, Meg, and I'm claiming my spot. Here's what I'm loving this week. Let me pull up my list. So there's this movie on HBO called Bad Education. Either of you heard of that? Oh, Keith has heard of it. Starring HUGH JACKMAN and Allison Janney. And it's basically this school administrator in a suburb in New York. And his assistant, I forget her position. I think she's also high up there in the board or something. And they both over the years have stolen like thousands, maybe millions, I can't remember, of dollars. And no one knew. It sounds fucking boring, but and it's a very subtle movie. It's a very subtle movie, which I appreciate because it's easy to like take an I, Tanya approach to that. Like a big, like, yeah, this is a bad person who people don't even know. But they take a very subtle approach, and the power of the movie is in the acting. Like it's so like people have been sleeping on HUGH JACKMAN. I'm telling you, like people are like, oh yeah, Allison Janney, like we all know she's an Oscar winner, like she's fucking great. But like HUGH JACKMAN, people are like, yeah, musical theater, Wolverine, whatever. He's a fucking great actor. I'm sorry how much I'm cursing here, but like this is how I feel. He is being slept on. Like people watch this movie and watch the range of emotions in his face in a couple scenes where he looks at himself in the mirror and tell me that is not Oscar material. Okay, that's my first.
That's your TED Talk.
And then my next one, I hate to plug another podcast in our podcast, but I'm going to. The one of the podcasts that I'm really loving, I love a lot of podcasts. Like Armchair Expert is my favorite, but that's not the one. This week I'm going to plug a podcast called Staying In with Kumail and Emily. It's Kumail Nanjiani's, the comedian, Kumail Nanjiani's podcast with his wife, who's a famous like screenwriter. It's great. It's like, it's basically kind of, the format's kind of like this. But they're just really funny. Like combined, I mean, not that we're not funny, but I feel like a lot of our jokes are just our own jokes to each other.
Yeah.
But they're like, it's and she's a therapist too. His wife is also a therapist. So there's a lot of like what we're talking about, what's happening to them during quarantine, but also a lot of just inner thought work that she she has in her arsenal as a therapist. So it's like a lot of stuff I'm like, whoa, I never thought about that. And that's maybe my thinking pattern. Like I didn't expect to hear that from this podcast. And at the same time, be entertained and laughing my ass off. So that's my other one. That's it. Those are my two. What are yours?
Yay. Okay, I guess for me, I'm tempted to just like say another Netflix show, but I haven't honestly like watched any new ones because I've been so busy. So I'm just gonna recommend what for me is an oldie but a goodie. I say oldie because I read it last year, but I highly recommend it to other people. So we were talking about books, right? And we're talking about not having a lot of time. So I recommend this book because it's nice and short. So it's very easy to whip through it in like an afternoon or a day, but it's so, so powerful and just so deep. And the book is called Tuesdays with Morrie. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe not, but it's a true story. And it's about this guy who his professor is about to die, right? So like basically he graduates college, he lives his life for like 10 years, he becomes like a famous journalist and like living the fast life. And then all of a sudden he sees his professor from 10 years ago on TV and his professor is dying. His professor has the one, I forgot the name, I think it's ALS, where your muscles like start to die.
Like atrophy.
And, like,
yeah.
Yeah. And you basically like, you become paralyzed and it just works its way up until you can't do anything for yourself anymore. So he sees his professor on TV who is suffering from this disease, and he's like, wow, like I need to get in touch with him and just spend more time with him because he was one of his favorite professors. So essentially the book is called Tuesdays with Morrie because this professor and this guy, I forgot the author's name, I'm sorry, but they start to spend some time together, and every Tuesday he goes to his house and they meet up and they have a conversation, and the author records him, and they basically strike a deal that he's going to write this book about what Morrie, that's the professor's name, is going through.
Oh, I found the author. It's Mitch Albom.
Yeah, Mitch Albom. So every Tuesday is essentially like a little lesson that Morrie gives him about life, because when you're about to die, right, you basically don't give a shit about the things that don't matter anymore, you know? Yeah. And that's the lessons that Morrie is trying to distill to his student, right? Like, hey, like this is how you've been living the past 10 years. What are some aspects of that you can reflect on, you know? So yeah, it's just a really good book. It's really short, and one of my favorite quotes, if I can remember it correctly, is the professor is talking about how it's like super tempting to like get up and be self-pitiful about a situation. Like he says something like, every morning I get up and I have a choice, right? I have a choice to be like, oh, woe is me, like this is my life, I'm paralyzed, I can't move, whatever. And then I have another choice, which is to continue to live with dignity and strength and humor and find compassion with people. So there was a quote, and I underlined it because I loved it. He said, there are some mornings when I cry and I feel sad for myself, but then it stops, it's over. And then I tell myself, I want to live, you know, I want to live, and I want to live with the humor and the dignity that I know is in me. So it's like, wow, it's so good. And it's like when we were talking about like being in the present moment, right? With that is like putting things in perspective, because a lot of the stuff we dramatize over is like shit that doesn't matter. You know, it's like, who really cares about this, you know? And so like reading that book, it just made me realize like what the important things are in life. Right. So anyway, I highly recommend.
Gosh, yeah, I'm going to add it to my list.
It's super
awesome. Good. Yeah. Heath, do you have anything? No pressure.
Is it just like things that we like last week specifically, or just the recent?
Last week specifically, but if you don't have anything last week, like just and recently is fine. Anything.
For me, it's cooking. Like, I don't know
Oh
if you
yeah.
guys.
No, this is a good seg. Okay. Well, okay. What about cooking? What about cooking?
Well, so like for me, when I say cooking, typically it's easy stuff. But more specifically, what I've uh, been doing is trying to cook Filipino dishes, and like learning.
Uh-huh.
Now, granted, again, I'll admit something here. A lot of it is just like a mix packet that you get at the store, and you put it
Dude,
on your
no
pork.
shame in that. No shame.
But yeah, it's learning those traditional, kind of like going back to your roots.
Yeah.
Um, Being here in Canada, I've been living on my own since September of last year, and it's easy for me to, you know, put eggs, cook eggs. It's hard
Yeah.
for me to cook like a full meal. So
Right.
so learning how to make those Filipino dishes specifically, or being mindful and aware of what you can purchase at the store, rather than going straight to the staples.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, just making dinner a little bit more exciting.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Like this is the time to do that.
Mhm.
That's actually
Yeah.
one of our points. Oh, okay, that's good then. We're gonna continue
Well,
that
hold on.
convo.
Before we segue, I just want to speak a little bit about that because you
No,
said
no,
like,
we're gonna continue that cooking convo. I'm just saying this is the point in the podcast
yeah.
where we're officially
No,
going.
yes, I do want to say just one quick thing is what I'm saying. Like, so he talked about like, oh, like sometimes I get packets or whatever. Like that's one of something I do when I'm cooking sometimes is I take those pre-made things and I just make it my own. So for instance, like ramen, right? Like everyone can make ramen. I like to just make the ramen with like the packet that it comes in, but then I'll add my own stuff to it. Like I'll
I do
chop
that all the
mushrooms
time.
and then
It's
I chop
it's like such a
onions.
life hack, dude. It's such
Yeah.
a life hack.
So
Yeah.
it's like you are just leveraging those pre-made things at the store and you're just taking it like up another level. That's all I
Hashtag
wanted to
leverage. Seriously. Okay, now we're officially transitioning back into the topic. But that's why I wanted to transition back at that point is because like cooking is actually I find another type of self-nourishment. I mean, obviously it's the obvious, like you're nourishing your body with food, but like, I don't know, just thinking about before quar, when, okay, I know you're smiling, Meg, because I said quar.
No, I'm just smiling because I'm happy. What? I can't smile.
Thinking back before quar where I just like, I mean, I ate pretty balanced meals. Oh my God, I'm going to cough one sec. I ate pretty balanced meals in terms of like, okay, I'm getting a protein, I'm getting vitamins, blah, blah, and blah. But they were never like not never, but like they were not always in the form that I enjoyed unless I had time in the weekend to make like pancakes or grits or, stuff that I enjoyed. Mostly it's just like a quick bite of toast. And then like maybe for dinner, cause I'm heading to class after work, I'm going to grab a granola bar and a cookie from the cafe next door. And now has been really the time to just enjoy making good food that's also nourishing. It's just so it makes me so happy. I like to look forward to cooking. Not in the sense that I'm making complex. Like that time for me has passed. There was a time when so I'm a vegan. I've been vegan for 4 years. There was a time like the first year and a half where I was just making the most complex dishes. Like, oh, let's make this oyster and batter it and make into like nuggets and then like make like coconut bacon. But now I'm just like, I just want a big meal that has all the components that I love eating and just have it nourish me. I'm in that point in my life and I'm so happy to like have the time to do it. And it just makes me mentally just feel good too. Like there's something mentally that's good about like having the time to prepare every single component, take the time to like lovingly put it together and then just have the time to sitting and enjoying a meal, man. Sitting and enjoying a meal. Sometimes before this, I just almost always did not have time. So yeah, so that was I'm glad you brought up cooking, and eating. Oh, Meg, I'm sure you have some thoughts on this.
Yeah, you can tell when I unmute myself that I'm ready. So yeah, I want to, I don't know. So it's like two things I want to convey, right? Like what you're talking about with like just keeping it simple, just like what is going to nourish me aspect, but also like to Keith's point of like trying to be more creative and like spice things up.
Oh, totally.
So I am like kind of navigating that right now with Ramadan, because on the one hand, it's like we have to cook, we call it breakfast, but it's like dinner every night, right? And while we do repeat meals, we try to kind of spice it up and make it different, so we're not eating the same thing every night.
No pun intended. Spice it up.
Yeah,
No pun
spice it
intended.
up. But also so that like to the point where I'm not going to the grocery store and just totally like breaking the bank. Like, let me just get everything.
Right. And
'cause
you
I
don't
wanna-
have the luxury to take your time to do that too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like the good old fashioned checklist or like list of items.
Oh, I knew it. I love it.
So for me,
Yes.
like that's really critical, because I know, and I used to be this way, a lot of people just go to the grocery store with no list in mind. They're like, yeah, I'm here and here's my cart and I'm just going to walk around and get whatever appeals to me. And like, that's how you lose your money, right? So for me, it's like being intentional and thinking about like, well, what do I want to eat this week? Like what's going to nourish me? And what are like some simple ingredients, and what ingredients do I already have in my pantry? So the first step is I do an audit, right? Like I look at what I have. There's still 5 potatoes. How can I repurpose those into like a more exciting meal? Or there's this or there's that. Then I make a list. Like today I went to the grocery store and just like every single thing that I pick up and take off the shelf, I really look at it and I'm super intentional, you know, because in the past I would just throw everything in my cart. But this time it's like, well, okay, I got this hot sauce. What am I going to use it for? Am I going to just use it for one thing, or is it going to serve like different purposes? If it's the latter, then it's really valuable. And then I decide to get it. So I've been taking that just a little bit more mindful approach with both grocery shopping and cooking since Ramadan started. And I've found that I've struck that middle ground that's been working for me. You know, like I've been forced to be creative with the simple ingredients that I have, but it's also helping me not like break the bank when I go shopping. So I've been really enjoying that.
Right. I agree. Yeah. It's like the creativity in cooking can mean different things. It can mean like exploring your culture, like you said, Keith, or like what you're saying, like, what do I already have? Because you're not going to find everything you need right now. And also that's stupid. You don't have the time to be like, I think I'm going to do a little bit of a, thing today. You don't have time to do that. I don't know who that was. So yeah, like if you have 5, you can only find 5 cans of beans. What kind of meals can you make with that? Okay, I'm not going to lie. I bought a box of instant mashed potatoes. But I'm fully enjoying it. I love it. Yum.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
dude.
but like I'm saying in the past, like, it's easy to be like, oh, I only want fresh, the freshest of fresh, organic, from the organic store. But now we don't have that luxury. So yeah, agreed.
And as an encouragement, practice makes perfect. I know for me, it always starts with a recipe, right? You do it enough times to understand the specific components as to why those ingredients are there, and then you change it up, you spice it up, and you do your own thing. You swap that with this or whatever. So as an encouragement, you're not, I don't think, unless you have been around cooking a lot, you probably won't know where to start. Start with something online, get something, play with it, and then from there, once you get down to the nitty gritty of it, change things up as you go, or use things at home that you already have, and make use of everything.
That's actually like one of the few instances where YouTube is is a good thing. It's like there's so many resources up there for everything. Or Google. Like what can I substitute with what? Yeah, totally. Wow.
Yeah, I love how you said play too. Just like approaching, it's easy for us to get so serious about things, right? Like just approaching your life with some fun,
Yes.
Like, this is a time for me to experiment and to play. I'm going to try to bake cookies with this weird sack of flour I found. Like hopefully it's not, but just approaching it with some fun, and it's just going to make this whole quarantine situation a little more light. And you don't have to take life so seriously. Yes, there's a very serious pandemic going on, but like I said the word choice when I was recommending that book, but that choice is with everything all the time, you know, like, yeah. So I love how you said play, because it's like, it makes the whole, because I'm not the best cook, I'll be real. And I've cooked some things where my husband was like, what the hell is this? You know, but it's like, dude, I'm just playing around. Well, there's nothing.
And he's like, yeah, he's just the first guinea pig. So
Yeah, exactly.
suck it. You're getting fed.
Yeah, that's what I tell him. Like, just eat it.
Okay, so we're like, we need to wrap this up, but I think it would be worth it to talk about like how to take care of yourself physically. Because we kind of broached it in terms of like taking a walk, making sure to get movement in there, but there's also something to be said about taking care of your physical environment and yourself. Like, it's easy to be like, oh, it's a wake up, it's 11 a.m. I'm gonna roll out, I'm gonna wear this outfit the whole day and maybe tomorrow and the day after. I don't need to take a bath or shower for the next 5 days, because who fucking cares, man? And I'm gonna just eat all the junk food, which there's a time and place for that. Like, if it would help you with some sort of stressor that you're going through, and there's like a couple of days where you need to like do that, that's fine. But like, and then also like ignoring, like, I'm just gonna let the dishes pile up in the sink, because like, who the fuck cares? But I mean, again, I don't mean to like imply judgment. I think for me personally, I need to have a clean, not even a clean space, but like a space that is comfortable. Because I think we broached this in the last podcast, but it's already so stressful. Like, our brains are already sort of a mess, or like our emotions are already sort of a mess. Like, why add to your living situation? And there's something about the routine of like, oh, I'm gonna wake up at the same time every day. I mean, not always, but like, I'm mostly gonna wake up at the same time every day, take a nice little like warm shower, and it makes me feel fresh. Like, it's just something that like just gives some sort of, you know, ease to how I navigate my day outwardly. I don't know, I find that it helps me mentally also.
So wait, is the topic like how to take care of your body, like your body specifically?
Anything
Physically?
physical, environment.
Okay. Yeah.
We're talking about mental, so let's talk about physical.
Yeah. So the physical, right? There's two ends of that. It's the exercise that we talked about, right? So Keith was talking about like the 2-hour walks and stuff, or maybe it's the gym. And then as the other side of that, which is like your base core necessities, like sleep and eat. What am I trying to say? Okay, sorry. So I was looking at our notes, and I really do want to bring up the concept or the topic of hygge. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah. Talk about that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so hygge, it's spelled HYGGE, and I'm sorry if you're Icelandic and you're like, you were butchering that word. Who would be Icelandic and listening to this anyway?
So many Icelandic listeners.
Yeah, we do. But anyway, it's a word called hygge, and the whole concept of that is just super cozy, like comfort. And it's a whole tradition in Iceland where I believe they have a day where it's like they spend the day like giving gifts and like books and cozy things to like exchanging books and cozy things to people. And then they spend that day just reading the books and just being cozy and eating. Oh
my gosh, I feel cozy drinking, just listening to it.
Like warm beverages and maybe like watching the snowfall because it's cold in Iceland. And so hygge is like essentially, I'm not sure exactly what it translates to, and listeners, you can Google this for yourselves, but it's essentially like coziness and comfort. And it's just like the feeling of wrapping a warm blanket around you and like in front of a fireplace. That's what hygge is all about. And I want to talk about that a little, because when you think of like physical health, a lot of us think about the other end of the spectrum, right? Like exercise. And yeah, that's important. You know, you need to go to the gym. You need to take those walks. You can't be sedentary all the time. But on the other end of that is the physical of like your base necessities of like sleep, you know, and that's something I've been struggling with, well, because of the schedule, but that I'm going through, but also my work. Like, it's been a really crazy week at work. So I've been really neglecting my sleep, and that is something that I'm going to try to get better at. And I think Keith was also talking about priorities, right? Like looking at your schedule and being like, well, what can I sacrifice? Okay. I'm going to try this coming week, because I don't want to be a hypocrite with our podcast, right? And it's going to be a busy week at work, but I'm going to try to like sacrifice like 30 minutes of time that I'm working for like 30 minutes of extra sleep, you know, that hygge,
Yeah.
that like comfort aspect, because that is
Right.
something that my body needs. And so that's like
Right.
my 2 cents about that. Is just keeping in mind that there's 2 ends of the spectrum and you need to take care of both of them.
Right. It really comes down to listening to yourself. What do you need? Like there are days, so I have a consistent like yoga practice. Every morning I do yoga in some way or another. It's usually like vinyasa. There are days when I just can't do it. Like my body just can't do it. And I have to like make an executive decision to be like, I'm going to put rest over it, you know, like and it's the same concept. Like coziness doesn't mean laziness at all. It means it's a form of mental and physical rejuvenation because you need it. You need that. Yeah, I love that. I don't know, Keith, if you have, we're closing entire thing, but
I
if you
want to
have any
say
thoughts.
talking. And
Ah,
I'm preaching to myself here. I am so blessed to have Jen as a partner who actually listens, right? We don't often think about that, but we bottle so many things up, and sometimes all it takes is for you to talk about it out loud. So
yeah.
if hopefully everybody here has somebody or a support that they can lean on, but if you don't, um, I hope that you can find that quick, because it really is helpful to kind of decompress and say things rather than bottling them all up.
Oh my God, that's such a key thing. Yeah. Do you guys make sure to schedule something too? Like, I mean, I know you live together, so it's probably easy to just talk anytime. But do you are you intentional about it in terms of like, oh, we have a scheduled like nighttime dinner talk, or do you like just talk whenever you're feeling like talking?
For Jen and I,
Yeah.
she's in a different city. I'm normally at my place.
Yeah.
But in terms of like finding the time, we always try to. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
specifically now in terms of self-isolating, just to make sure that we're not all alone, we are trying to um, be together in terms
Yeah.
of hanging out, trying to talk to each other, doing those types of walks. But yeah, no, like I said, I'm preaching to myself here, because when I get frustrated, I'm quick to just be quiet and
Yeah.
just sit, because like
Yeah.
I'm trying to process how to solve something, but
Right.
that's not always the case. So to talk to somebody, to find a different perspective, to get different ideas, and again, just a release. Sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah.
Never mind getting actual solutions from somebody else.
Right.
It's helpful. I know before I would drive her home, because we would work at the center together. So the drive home is the time that we talk to each other, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. It's like you have to have something to process all that pent up emotion, and pent up feeling. And for you, and for a lot of people, it's talking to their friend, their partner, a therapist. That's who I talk to. And or like if you process that by, for example, journaling, I also journal. It helps because like you said about perspective, you write it down. You write down something you're feeling, and then you kind of look at it later and you're like, wow, I don't actually feel that way anymore. Or like, is that actually true? You're giving yourself your own perspective in a different way when you write. Like it's a different way of processing your own thoughts when you journal. Yeah. So I totally agree. Like some way to process what's happening in terms of talking, talk therapy, writing, whatever. Um,
Mhm.
I
And
know you have thoughts on it, Meg.
no, not thoughts, but just
Oh,
like
okay.
a preview into the next episode, right? Like, so
Oh,
this is
ooh.
a relationship, right? Having an open
Yes.
relationship. And that's what we're going to
Yes.
talk about in the next episode. So,
Yes, no, yeah, this is such, wow, we're really good at the segues.
yeah.
Um, okay, yeah, so so that about wraps up our talk. That was so great. Actually feel like I did a little bit of a therapy right now. But before we close, Meg, has a quote, right? About
Oh
control?
yes,
Oh,
quote of the
gosh.
day.
Oh, thank God. I was like, I hope you have that quote.
So Keith, we always close our podcast with a quote of the day. Last week, I opened up my app and read a quote from Don Juan.
Spiritual Awakening app, not sponsored.
Spitch Awakening app, guys. Spitch Awakening app. Let's open this up and let's see what the universe has in store for us.
Yeah, I can't wait. What?
Okay, guys, here's our quote of the day. Okay. Chinese proverb says, man's life, ... candle in the wind, frost on the tiles.
Okay, it sounds funny the way it was delivered, but it goes hand in hand with, like, you were talking about, this too shall pass. It is temporary. That's what it's saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's everything.
Yeah, right. Sorry, it was like funny to me at first, but now that you said,
I mean, it's delivered in a ridiculous way, like man's life ...
Man's life, candle in the wind, frost on the tiles. The candle will blow out, right? The frost on the tiles will melt.
Exactly. It's everything is a it helps to think of everything as like a transitional period. It's like a moment where you're growing before the next moment comes. Like literally every moment is a moment of evolution. Yeah, Zoom for YouTube viewers, here you go. If you need to look at it in visual form, there it is. Oh shit, I almost like stopped recording before we said our social media.
Yeah, social media, guys.
Okay, so this is our social media segment. Everyone, we would love to hear your thoughts on this. Like, we're honestly like the biggest self-care, self-development people, Meg and I, and Keith, it sounds like too. But yeah, we would love to hear your thoughts, your top, I don't know, what things you're doing to take care of yourself during this time. So hit us up on our Instagram at, oh my God. Oh, sorry. Meg is doing something on the screen, podcast listeners. Instagram at Deep Convos Pod. Email for old school folks like moi, deepconvospodcast@gmail.com. Please hit us up, follow us, subscribe, all that good ish.
And if you would like to reach out to us personally, I'm meg.sales.14 and you are, I'm like trying not to call you Hatukukay. You are Fran Sales. And then Keith, what's your, if you want to share it.
I can give it out, but when I use Facebook and Instagram is really more to just check up on people. I don't actually like post or anything like that, but you'll find me.
People are probably so curious. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe someone want to reach out to you.
Yeah.
At Keith Daniel Liano, I think is my Instagram, and then same with my Facebook. It goes to show how much I use it.
Yeah, you don't even know your own handle.
I think.
Yeah, so everyone, good luck looking for Keith on Instagram. And that's it. We're going to wrap it up. Goodbye, everyone.
We need a better outro, seriously.
Okay, stop. Bye.